Okay, Paula, tell me when you're ready. All right, we'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Cottonwood Heights, our business meeting this Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Councilmember Bracken if you'd lead us in that pledge. All right, we have some honored guests with us this evening, and we're excited to meet some of our newest police officers. And so, Robbie, I'll turn the time to you for introductions, and I hope they've all planned a 5-minute speech. So
they have. They were told that was part of the gig. So they've already been sworn, but I will call each of them up with their certificate ever they have with them tonight, and we'll do the badge pinning, and then I'll give them an opportunity to address the council. They are 3 of our newest officers. They've just graduated from the police academy. Salt Lake City was gracious enough to allow us spots in their academy at no charge as part of just a agreement we have with them. And they're in FTO now, which is field training, and we expect to get them on the street August-ish. November, December, whenever. As soon as they're ready, we will get them on the street. And we're excited to have the fresh blood, and I think they're excited to be here. But I'll call up, first of all, is Josh Comber and Janica. And then I have Zephanie Hung and Dan and Spencer Stone with his wife, Ann, who is a new mom, by the way. Come on up. I will give you the badge. All of you, come on up.
She rehearsed.
I know.
This is for you. And this is for you. Okay. If you'll pin the badges on, we're good to go.
Just you don't have to go all the way. Okay. Perfect. I'll fix it.
You sure did. Yay, good for you.
all right.
No.
Josh, don't walk away.
Sit down yet.
Come on up.
Did you see how, yes, you saw how we tried to
Not
sneak
5
away.
minutes, but again, we welcome and we appreciate. We know that individuals like each of you have the opportunity to select a lot of different jurisdictions to work because your services are so critically important to the lifestyle of each of our communities. So we're very thankful you chose our city to work. And so just introduce yourself. Tell us just a tiny bit about yourself. I'm the mayor, and here's the city council, and we'd like you to know us. We'd love to be able to say hi to you when we see you out on the road or wherever, yeah.
Great, definitely. I'm Josh Comber. I'm originally from Oregon. I've been in Utah since '96. My dad was military. He was stationed uphill, but we lived down here because he was a recruiter. I've worked the last 20 years in logistics. I originally took the end post 18 years ago. I went a different direction, and somehow the career paths have finally crossed paths again, and I'm happy to be here. I love the city of Cottonwood Heights. I'm really familiar with the area, and I like the people.
So maybe more specifically, why did you choose Cottonwood Heights?
Cottonwood Heights was where I'd originally intended to apply. It's the only application that I put in. I've got some close friends up here within the department, and it was a match. It was perfect timing. Things aligned at the right time.
Okay. Well, thank you, and again, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Great to meet everybody.
Yeah. Okay, Spence, you're next. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Spencer Stone. I am born and raised in Salt Lake City. I went to Olympus High and spent a lot of my time in Cottonwood Heights as a young man, and I want to be a good officer, and I know Cottonwood Heights, they make great officers, and that was one of my decisions when I applied here, and I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I'm grateful that each and every one of you have faith in our police administration to bring on us as applicants. This was the next step in my career because I started the Salt Lake County Jail, and that was a fantastic opportunity, but I wanted to get a little bit more out of this. And as a police officer, I don't want to necessarily save the world. I just want to make the community I serve a little bit better, and I feel I can do that here in Cottonwood Heights. And thank you again for the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Spence, and good luck.
Thank you.
And I will say thank you in advance to another Titan.
Oh, another Titan? All right.
Hi, I'm Zephanie Huang. I was born in China, so a little bit far away, but I came over to Utah, Sandy specifically, when I was 6 or 7 years old. Been living here ever since. I went to college out in Philadelphia, so I was able to experience a little bit of a different climate, different people, and I realized, I think about last year, that I really wanted to make a difference in my community. I wanted to help people. I wanted to become stronger and a better person. So that's really why I chose to pursue this line of work. I've been very grateful. Ever since we started FTO, I've had the opportunity to help mothers find their sons, reunite them, runaways, find children. I've been having the opportunity to visit accident victims, in the hospital and really express that I want them to feel better. And really my goal is to be the best officer that I can be, as well as make everyone that I interact with, have a different view of us, that we are there to help them and that we are there to protect them. And if I can make even just 1 or 2 people's lives a little better because I stopped them or I talked to them, then I would be very happy.
Thank you very much and welcome. Wow. Very impressive, all 3 of you.
They're amazing, aren't they? And special thanks to Stephanie for getting them in through the academic portion of the academy. I know that she is a tremendous note taker, and she's a great help. Actually, they're all very skilled, and we're lucky to have them. Thank you.
Well, we hope to see all of you again and around. So again, welcome. All right. With that exciting part of our agenda, I'd like to all go home and leave on that positive note. But we got some business to do. We have citizen comments at this point. We have 4 or 5 people that have asked to comment. I'll call you up now. And if you haven't filled out a card and you'd like to, fill it out and we'll call you up. Roberta Woldridge, come on up. We always do the best first, yeah.
Well, as usual, I'm Roberta Woolridge, and as usual, I want to address once again the ADUs and the fact that we're all very concerned about property values, parking, as we all know, and of course, the fact that we're concerned about maybe being able to enforce all of the regulations that we're setting forth, because we're not enforcing a lot of things that are on the books right now. Everybody kind of goes overboard, I think, in Cottonwood Heights to make their property attractive and work hard at doing that. I have to question if Edie and Dennis Wright had to put a cement slab on the side of their house, I doubt very seriously that they would have been selected for their beautification. So it's something to think about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Roberta. Mr. Tim Halbeck, welcome back. Mr. Not Popular, have you done something wrong lately?
No, I want to address all the green stuff that was being addressed the last time I was here and just make sure that we're all realistic about things. I did the battery thing last year. So solar power is great, the wind power is great, but operating temperatures for electric vehicles are still very, very limited. So your battery, if your battery's not heated, whether it's NiCad or lithium ion, is not going to operate below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. When you have to turn that heater on, if you have a Tesla, you know, your useful mileage goes down by half. Below around 26 degrees, it stops working at all, and you won't be able to charge anything, even if you can get to where you're going. So just keep in mind, the liquid natural gas, I think, is still the best way to go. But they actually have a zero emissions 1 megawatt natural gas plant now. They use the natural gas as, instead of turning a steam turbine, the gas turns the turbine just like a jet engine would. So all the exhaust gas goes into water, and you end up with a big batch of soda water and a megawatt. And that's pretty efficient, especially if you put it next to like a Coca-Cola plant, then symbiosis. Anyway, just be realistic when it's, I know there's talk about let's go electric or hybrid on the police vehicles and that kind of thing. Just keep in mind we're below freezing most of the time and stuff doesn't work below freezing. So that's it.
Right. Thanks, Tim. Good to see you again. Nancy Hardy.
Hello. I brought my infamous packet. I just wanted to talk about the packet just real quickly. I'm against ADUs, and based on the packet that I previously handed out, a majority of the citizens appear to be against the ADUs, and a big majority have concerns based on the packet. And I just have asked, how will the concerns be addressed? And I was also wondering if after everybody has read the packet, have you summarized what's in the packet? And maybe list the reasons why people voted yes for the ADU and the reasons why they voted no or expressed their concerns against it. Because in this packet and all the comments that I gathered, it just seems like it's not the 50-50 split that I keep hearing. So I just would like to make sure all residents' voices are heard and see what kind of split you come up with.
Well, we've got a lot of comments, and we've been trying to digest all those, and each council member has different perspectives, and we've been talking about this now for, it seems like 18, 20 months, so we've continued to go through it, and in the meeting just now, we're talking about it again, so.
If I may,
please.
The 40-40-20 came from a survey that was done amongst the entire citizenship, not just people who showed up to meetings. It was 40% saying, yes, do it, 40% saying don't change anything, and 20% saying get the people that are doing it and throw them out of their houses. Enforce what you've got and get rid of them all.
But that
was the 40-40-20.
Right, but that was just, but I think that was just talking conceptually without specific, without having an ordinance in front of us with some of the changes that have taken place in the design, so.
It was, but that's at least where I see that.
Yep.
Kind of that even split coming down.
Yeah. And some people said 50-50 when we had the public open house. Some people kept track and, it started out everyone one direction, ended up wandering another direction. So it's a difficult decision, and we're still processing that. Eric, you want to come on up?
Hello. Well, let me address the ADUs first. That was also a statistical sample of the survey 40-40-20, and so they don't actually make a phone call to everybody in the city. You want to do something like that? Put it on a general vote this coming November. I would actually want to say that it's tragically comic to actually see the entire city council and the staff trying to vacillate as to how we can actually control the number of people on an ADU rooms and parking and this and that and stuff that you're going to create a lot of jobs for Chief Russo and all the new officers. You're not going to be able to follow through. There's a simple solution. I presented it before. I presented before the Planning Commission. I talked about it. You struck it out. And it's basically just redefining the whole term of family. The state actually has a term of family is up to 4 people, or anybody related, or up to 4 people not related. 3, I believe, if it's within a public institution like a university or something like that. We have a definition that actually states it's a family, regardless of the relationship, or up to 4 people. And that's only for the R1. RR, you have a change in the wording, which actually says and. If you actually make it and, you can actually have satisfying the single mom that actually needs 2 or 3 other people living there. You have a number of people related, and then up to 3 other people. Anyway, another thing is you're going to introduce a problem of you have 2 families in 2 areas, but the same central. There's no separation like on a duplex or something like that. Everybody's sharing the same heating system. All of a sudden, somebody's cooking peanut sauce on the upper floor. That air gets there. Somebody down below has allergies to peanuts, and they go into an anaphylactic shock or something like that. There's a reason why when you introduce 2 families, you have certain degrees of separation. I don't understand why ADUs don't require that amount of separation. About the Walsh property, the goal of the PDD and the entire Fort Union Master Plan is to accomplish a vibrant, walkable step. There's 3 things that you can actually do to accomplish this. Is apply some commercial that will attract people and create the movement, density, and obviously public space where people can gather. I'm sad to see that there's a lack of innovative solutions being provided by staff, council, the owners, the developers. And let me just finish real quickly. In order to accomplish this goal, the location of the Walsh property, which is away from Fort Union, there's no major corridor that goes there. Actually, there's a tiny little street with parking problems. Makes it almost negligible that the commercial aspect of this property is going to bring any kind of commercial that's going to make it walkable or oriented. Now, the one feature of this property that is actually valuable to the city, valuable to a PDD, which to begin with, I don't even think it should have been in the PDD, but is the creek and the nature of open space that's already there present. You speak very clearly in the PDD ordinance about retaining unique features that are characteristic of that area that is about to be developed. And I'm also finding it very, very frustrating that nobody has been able to actually come up with a fact that you can actually talk to neighbors and come up with a way of actually creating a park that would service everybody in that area, especially west of the creek, following the creek. The city has actually trying to seek some funds to actually connect and do a trail that would go under Fort Union all the way to the Walmart. You can negotiate with the neighbors around this entire area and connect it to that and become a park, which actually will create traffic and citizen pedestrian walkability. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, Lynn Krause.
Good evening. I was happy to see 3 new police officers, and I was especially happy to see that one of those was a female officer, so I wish they were still here to welcome them. That was my first comment. Second comment, you guys talked about rainwater collection system sometime last year.
Rain barrels.
Rain barrels, yep. Just thought that was a great conversation, and I'm interested in that, and I don't know where that stands, but just wanted to voice my support of that. And then the third thing is on that ICO development. I heard something in the work session about the live-work units requiring a business license, but in listening to previous conversations, it sounded like people working from home were legitimate uses for that space. So for me, somebody that works from home, I'm certainly not going to apply for a business license. So I think that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other constituents well, you have one right here. Come on up. Jared Crocker, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, what I have to say is brief regarding PDD 18001, the ICO proposal. I appreciate the time that you're spending deliberating it. As a Cottonwood Heights citizen, I want you to know that I oppose the proposal. A lot of citizens oppose the proposal. I think that you've heard from a number of us. I'm sure you'll hear from more. For reasons which are increasingly emerging during your deliberations, I oppose the proposal. It is not being critical of the developer, and it is not being unfair to or denying the Walshes the opportunity to sell or otherwise use their property to say that this is not a good proposal. It is a round peg in a square hole. This apartment complex would not improve our city. This proposal is not consistent with the ordinance, and we citizens rely on you, our representatives, to make equitable, legislatively grounded decisions. Please vote against. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Any other comments from citizens? All right, moving on in the agenda, we have two items that we will be taking public comment on as well. The first is the Bryn Homes General Plan Land Use Map Amendment from residential to low density to residential. And anyway, Mike, you're going to present this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a general plan land use map amendment and a rezone to two properties located at 7559 and 7571 Prospector Drive. The land use map, well, I'll provide some context first. This is right at the fork off of Wasatch Boulevard onto Prospector Drive, just a little bit south of the Canyon Center site. And you can see the street view there. It is straight ahead of that intersection entrance there with the kind of landscape islands buffering Prospector from Wasatch Boulevard. This slide provides some context. The existing land use designation is residential low density on the subject properties and in the surrounding area.
Parcels?
There are two parcels, but I'll get into the chat. That will become one parcel because of some of the constraints on the lot. The proposed land use, again, is residential medium density. That does allow for increased density. Generally, I believe 2 units. It's commensurate with an R2, a twin home type zoning, so 2 family dwelling per roughly 8,000 square feet. I should say the cumulative size of both properties is 1 acre. And this is some zoning context. The existing zoning in the area is R18 with a proposal to amend this piece to these pieces to R28. And you can see some small property lines there. There are a lot of existing 2-family dwellings that were constructed in the 90s or before, both north and south of this property. There are a lot of natural constraints that make this lot very difficult to develop at all. One being a fault line that runs through the entirety of most of the area of that lot. You can see that indicated with the red line. And based on fault studies that have been done previously by previous applicants and developers, the fault setback line is overlaid there as well. So you can see the constraints. Anything east to the right side of that orange fault setback area is 30% slope and is also unbuildable. And I do believe you have some constraints with utility lines running through there. Those can be relocated. But what this means is basically on the 1 acre site on both of those properties, there's one small building pad on the northwest side that's indicated in blue on the screen here that is viable for any sort of development. Years ago, prior to my time here, this property received a variance on the front setback. So there is a front setback variance active on this property to allow, I believe, a 5 or 7 foot front building setback. That applies whether it's single family, multifamily, whatever this becomes. Here's some context. To the north, you have a mix of single family homes and 2-family homes. And to the south, you have 5 two-family dwellings. Again, most of these constructed in the 90s or previous to that. Okay, we have another situation here where staff's recommendation differed from the Planning Commission, so I'm going to run through that briefly. Staff's general finding for its recommendation of approval, one is the proposed density, given the constraints of the lot, is actually compatible with the existing land use, the residential low density. What we would have here, if the zoning were changed, would be 2 units in one twin home on 1 acre. So 2 units per acre is actually well within the residential low density land use designation and would comply with that. However, the general plan does list some examples of zonings in each type of land use. And under residential medium density, it lists an example of land use there as an R2 type zoning. Because of that, staff felt it was appropriate for the applicant to apply for that land use map amendment as well as the zone map amendment, even though the underlying density complies with the existing land use designation. The second finding is that it is compatible with the development that's been existing in the area for quite a while. There are 2 family homes in the area. This is well in line with that. The Planning Commission, by a vote of 5-1, recommended denial. And I don't want to call these findings because they didn't provide them as official findings, but in their consideration, as they were expressing their concerns, some of the rationale some members of the commission brought up. One was a concern of spot zoning. When you do look at this, the proposal does seem out of place without taking into account some of the context that was provided.
So those homes to the south are zoned R1 even though they're twin homes?
Yeah. Okay. So those would have been built previous to incorporation, grandfathered in as a non-conforming use. Sorry, the slide's being slow. I'm trying to get back to my... Another concern that was brought up is the future use of that property as a short-term rental. Our ordinance would not allow a short-term rental to be legally operated here, but
allowed in R1. It is allowed in R2.
It's allowed in R2, but only in private developments that are privately managed and have 8 units. So this is a public street. It's not allowed. Just point blank would be illegal. And the third point of rationale we heard from the commission is that if one of the surrounding properties were to apply to redevelop, if they were to voluntarily demolish one of the homes, they would be required to rebuild in compliance with the existing general plan, so low density, single family residential. That would be a little tricky. Some of these lots were actually split, so you have sub 8,000 square foot lots. You can see some to the north and to the south, but that was the third concern that we generally heard from the Planning Commission. So
just okay, on the fault lines.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I have a concern.
Sure.
There seems to be a trend tonight of staff advocating for things that the Planning Commission has already denied. I'm a little bit concerned about this trend. Staff seems to be selling us on it when they didn't manage to sell the Planning Commission on it.
I'm presenting the facts. The staff's recommendation comes before the presentation to the Planning Commission. So we presented the same recommendation to the Planning Commission. And just to be fair, we're presenting that same recommendation to you to provide context for why our recommendation differs from the Planning Commission's. Okay. So the order here is we receive an application, we review it, we prepare a staff report with a recommendation with these same findings that I presented. The Planning Commission then takes public hearing and reviews it and provides a recommendation to the council with the rationale presented, and now it's in front of the mayor and council.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's all I have for this presentation. I know the applicant is here and has some information to share with the mayor and council as well. Are there any questions of staff?
All right, thanks.
Sorry, can you just go back to the picture that you had of the there? Can you just point to which parcel's being combined?
It's in the middle of these. It's not any of these.
Yeah. Keep going. It's in the south portion over to the right?
No, it's not in either. We moved to the left and to the right and grabbed aerial images.
But go back to the plot, Matt, and you can see where it is though.
So we took pictures of all. You can't see there. Those are address points. Anything with an address point is a building.
And all those at the bottom were the duplexes, everything at top was a single family, right? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah, to the north, there's a mix of twin home and single family. Yeah. To the south, it's all twin homes. But in the picture, you would have seen a big undeveloped property that's right. If you drove straight through the intersection and didn't turn left or right, you'd drive right onto this property.
Yep.
I'm going to pull it up on my Google Maps.
Yeah.
The
Maybe
building
next time you can
envelope
include
is how big on the one parcel?
Well, it has to be 3,500 square feet, and I don't think it's much more than that.
And those little islands that are in front of the proposed development are actually, if I understand correctly, are property that's owned by the city?
I think the one on the north is owned by the city.
Yeah.
I can't confirm.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
And that's why you see a public facility designation there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So just so I'm clear, the yellow box that you have there starts the center of the intersection, and does it extend all the way to the first twin home?
Yes.
That whole acre?
Yes.
And then the actual duplex or whatever you want to call it will just be at the north end of the yellow.
Yeah, any structure would be at the very far northwest corner.
Because that's unencumbered with the fault line and
And you can see that the blue box there, it's kind of hard to see, but in relation to that intersection.
We can see it in front here, yeah.
Can you convey some of the sentiment of the public when they were talking to the planning? What were the concerns of the public?
We heard a lot of concerns of short-term rentals and other concerns from people maybe that don't live immediately north or south, that those same concerns exist with the existing units, rental issues, parking issues, things like that. It was a lot of the impact of a duplex and a potential short-term rental there.
And so so in terms of like the parking issue, this is just a rezone. We don't know what'll actually be there and the number of garage stalls or any of those things.
There will be minimum standards to meet. So 2 stalls per residential unit. That would become a building permit requirement. And if it were single family, if the rezone is not approved, it's still 2 stalls for that single family home. They need to be provided somehow, but we don't have a sense at this point.
Can the driveway go onto the setback of the fault?
The driveway for the lot? Yeah. Yes. So the fault setback, you just can't construct habitable structure in the fault setback.
Other question is the on-street parking there. Is there on-street parking on one or both sides of Prospector at that location?
That I know of. I'm not 100% certain, but I don't think it's prohibited there.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Thanks, Mike. The applicants here like to comment? Yeah.
I'm Adam Breen. Thank you very much for the time today. I am a resident, business owner, and I operate my business in Cottonwood Heights. So I'm a proponent of Cottonwood Heights. Just wanted to address a couple of things that Mike didn't address here. First, the variance of setback is allowed to 15 feet. I know he'd mentioned he thought it was a 7 or 8, but it is a 15-foot setback on that front portion. So it is pulled back a fair amount. The main concern that Planning Commission had brought up was spot zoning. As I've done a little bit more of understanding of spot zoning, legal definitions and terms of it really fall back to singling out a small parcel of land for the use and classification totally different from that of the surrounding area. Usually spot zoning is used for schools, parks, fire stations, something like that. You'd put dramatically in the middle of a residential area, where this is not totally different in my opinion, of what's currently there in the density. We've got a map up here that, again, is fairly hard to see, but it maybe is a little bit more of a zoomed out portion. What you're looking at here is the blue star is where the subject property is. And then you can see multiple different zoning pieces around and throughout the area of the Wasatch Corridor. What's going on there with current development, the type of twin homes, townhomes that have been built within neighborhoods. I think that it's not falling totally outside of the world of what the residential zoning is in the area. Further, currently being R18 and 2 individual single-family lots, without the geological hazards of the lot, we could be building 2 single-family homes. The geological hazards force us to 1 buildable area, but as Mike mentioned, the buildable area is not large enough to do much more than 1 duplex or 1 2-unit building. No, we have not got into designing the building yet. That's a little premature trying to get an approval here. But I can tell you my business is custom home building. East Bench, Salt Lake City, we do 3 to 5 custom homes a year. We usually sell for in between the $200 to $400 a square foot range. So very familiar with the higher end homes. This would be a higher end 2-unit building that would have parking in garages. We wouldn't have anything parking on the street. In fact, I believe, and I could be wrong in this, Mike, but I believe that both sides of Prospector there does have no parking signs on it. So we wouldn't be parking on the street. Last, I do know that Cottonwood Heights is working this year on updating their comprehensive and master plan. Knowing that the big Cottonwood Canyon corridor there is an area of growth and an area to see a lot of mixed use, commercial, single family, multifamily development in the area. Again, I don't think that it's fair to classify this as spot zoning, that it still fits within the scope of zoning that's going on around there. I heard one of the commissioners mention up here that it may look like spot zoning, but it's not spot use. The way the land's currently being used in the area does facilitate the townhome, the twin home concept there. And so I think it's a little far to really throw that under the rug as a spot zone. And that was really the main concern that I think the Planning Commission had in not fully understanding what we were going after there. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a little bit more public comment. Sean, do you want to speak on this subject? All right, come on up.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Actually, just saw the project in the zoning, kind of in the agenda of this evening. I actually live in the neighborhood just to the southeast, Kings Cove Circle, so it's off of Top of the World Drive, actually. I actually fully support this project, especially from the implications that we have in Cottonwood Heights with the overall geographical implications of a fault line. So they've looked at a creative option of working around a fault line to be able to create something that's very needed in our community, which is something that, if you look at Kem Gardner report of housing and the housing crisis that we're in right now, there's this backyard, kind of not my backyard situation that everybody's talking about. The citizens are talking about it, everybody's talking about it. And in Cottonwood Heights, it's really difficult for, first of all, more density, but then tasteful density. When you have a tasteful developer like these guys that are coming in, they found an option to be able to work around a fault line, and they're just looking to make this pencil. It makes a lot of sense to be able to make it pencil, but then also allow for other community members to be able to now move into the community. You can't actually regulate that whole neighborhood back there. Has tons of rentals in it. I wish people could regulate it. I own my home. I've got 2 children and a family that I'm raising back there. But you can't necessarily regulate that. So I really support that development, especially being able to take geographical ramifications that they have to then create something actually special at the base of the canyon there instead of having it be blank land at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, guys.
Do we have any further public comment on the Brand Homes General Plan land use map adjustment? Come on up, yeah.
I just want to mention, so Adam lives 2 houses down from me. The custom house that he built in our neighborhood down below Brighton. It's one of the most awesome houses you ever see. Horrible slope. The last house that was there fell down the hill. Had to build things up. Had to get very, very creative is what I'm saying. So if you want to get an example of the kind of things that he's been building around Cottonwood Heights in general, I would say come give us a visit. It's really nice.
Thank you, Tim.
Hi again. I didn't realize this was going to be on the agenda, but when I saw it on the agenda, I went looking for a packet that had the citizen comments from the Planning Commission, and I didn't find one. So I would just recommend that you read the citizen comments that were made during the Planning Commission meeting, because I think those are important in order for you guys to make a decision. The second thing, I think it's poor logic to use twin homes that are non-conforming as a reason to approve this. I don't think we should use non-conforming things as good logic for saying, yeah, that's a good thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Any other comments on this application? Hearing none, we'll close public comment on a 4.1. We'll move on to 4.2. The Kimley Horn zoning text amendment to amend section 19.82, which is wall signs. So, Mike, you'll let you present that as well.
I think I'm talking too much tonight. Okay, this is a proposal. This is not city initiated. Most text amendments are. This one is not. So this is an applicant initiated proposal we received to amend the sign code, a very specific portion of the sign code of the zoning ordinance. It relates to wall signs and specifically the size of wall signs in relation to the wall that they're on. This is just an excerpt, but the existing ordinance is displayed on the left and the proposed on the right. The existing ordinance states that the aggregate area of the wall signs displayed on a premises shall not exceed the following percentages. 15% of the aggregate area of the wall, and in no case shall a wall sign exceed 6 feet in height. The simple proposal here is to eliminate the last sentence and remove the height limitation on lettering on wall signs. The 15% aggregate area, the coverage requirement would still apply. Everything else in the sign ordinance, from lighting to the type of sign that can be installed, remains as is. So this proposal proposes to remove that 6-foot limitation. We did some research of just a few adjacent cities. This is by no means comprehensive or conclusive, but we didn't see anywhere a cap on a specific dimension of a wall sign. Sandy is 15% or 600 square feet. Midvale is just 15%. Holiday, 15% of one wall area, visible by a street, so 15% on any side of a wall facing a street. If it's not facing a street, 10%, which our code doesn't actually allow that. Same with Taylorsville, 15% or 600 square feet. This applicant the proposal was initiated by a representative of Target. They are preparing a remodel, a reface of the Target facade. They came in preliminarily with staff and sat down with their proposal. The wall sign dimension was identified as an issue, and a few options were presented to them, from just comply with the ordinance, apply to amend the ordinance, or stick with what you have already. Their choice was to apply for an ordinance amendment. This super target sign right now, and when we measure wall signs, we measure the maximum dimension. So we're measuring the target, the actual symbol there. That's 8 feet right now. So that target symbol there is non-complying. The letters, I believe, are 6 feet, or maybe 5. This is a conceptual rendering of the type of renovation that Target is proposing. The target there would be 12 feet with the lettering being 8 feet. So the letters would essentially be the size of the existing Target symbol.
When you measure that 15%, is that of the entire facade, or is it
Yeah,
just a section?
it's anywhere on the front facade, not windows and doors, but anywhere a sign can go.
Say that one more time.
It doesn't include
Mike.
windows and doors. It's just, okay.
It's the signable area of a facade. So it could be anywhere along there that a wall sign could reasonably be constructed.
But in this example, the lettering could potentially become as big as the Target symbol? Is that what you said?
This would be the proposal in Target's case.
Lettering could be.
It's the lettering in the proposal. The lettering is 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And the target is,
I think
10 or
12.
whatever,
Well, it's right here. This is an example. This ordinance amendment would apply citywide, but this is a concrete example to try to visualize the impact here. The existing ordinance, again, allows 6 feet in height, which would require that bullseye to be 6 feet, the total sign area to be 15%. The existing Target sign has a bullseye that's actually 9 feet and 5-foot lettering, but that Target, the lettering there, is only 3% of the signable area. Under the proposal, the lettering height and the bullseye height both increase the signable area. Because the wall is so massive, it's still only 5% of the wall. Understanding that this ordinance provision would apply citywide, we need to visualize how this affects other properties. Our ordinance right now prohibits any wall signs from extending above the roof of a building. So I don't think we have to worry about smaller tenant spaces increasing the size of their wall signs disproportionate with the wall. We're not proposing to change any of the other standards for lighting, for the type of lettering, for the total coverage. So 15% remains 15%, and we found that generally, based on the size of the wall, the 15% is usually proportional with whatever wall it's going on. So the existing ordinance, as we looked at it, really only detrimentally affects your commercial spaces with really large walls. And we analyzed a few: Home Depot, Whole Foods, I believe Old Navy. Many were constructed before incorporation and would be non-complying as to today's ordinance. And on a lot of those large walls, a 6-foot sign would actually look disproportionately small. Because of that, we feel that staff has recommended approval. We feel that it doesn't have a major impact with the other safeguards already in the code and not proposing to be amended. The Planning Commission also recommended approval unanimously, and there were no public comments received on this item.
Who made the request?
Kimley Horn.
Kimley Horn. And you cited Taylorsville as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to the intersection of like 5600 South and Redwood?
Mm-hmm.
The Five Guys, like their sign is enormous in proportion to that wall, visually.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be looking at something similar.
Not necessarily. We're just removing the 6-foot cap. We're still saying it has to be 15%. It can't extend above the wall. Every tenant space is going to be different in how much signable area it has, because the wall on a shopping center or a big box store is much different than the wall on a small insurance office. We feel that 15% will generally be proportionate to whatever wall a sign's being located on. Again, this amendment does not propose to change that 15%. This is looking at certain walls that are large, where you have signs that already don't comply. When we deal with renovations, those signs will get smaller and may look disproportionate.
In this piece of the ordinance, do we deal with illumination as well?
It's elsewhere in the ordinance.
We have adequate controls there then, yeah.
Yes, and we are bringing our dark skies ordinance forward.
Yeah,
separately.
Because the dark skies part of it would be equally as important. Yeah.
That will address sign lighting as well.
Maybe you could, for me, the one that I think of that may be kind of an extreme example would be down here, it was a bike shop. It was a Blockbuster back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It has just one great big back that's quite large.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is about 5.5, you said, for that whole facade?
Yes, that would include Target and the CVS sign and the grocery sign, all the signs.
So all the signage is all together. I'd be kind of curious to know what a sign on the back of the, for lack of a better calling it, the Blockbuster.
The bike shop.
Yeah, it's a large wall.
Bike shop. It's not a bike shop anymore. Who's in there now?
It's vacant.
It's vacant now.
Essentially, what this amendment does, under the current code, it essentially incentivizes signs to be wider than they are tall. The 6-foot limitation on a big wall would just, if you want to maximize 15%, you'd go horizontal. Removing the 6-foot cap allows that still, but also allows some flexibility to increase the lettering height vertically as well. It adds flexibility, and staff and the commission don't feel that it jeopardizes anything in return.
So you'd be okay with the ugliest possible potential sign on the back of the...
Yeah, when we're talking signs, we can't talk ugly, and we can't talk offensive words, content.
I'm going worst case scenario, you'd still, if you had 15% of that wall that was converted to complete sign, that would still be aesthetically okay with you think? Because I'm having a hard time visualizing it without drawing.
Yes, I mean, that's a different context, but in a zone like that on a major corridor, there's an added step that any sign goes through architecture review. That's going to be part of it, but yeah, essentially what it would allow is a sign that could be taller. It would have to sacrifice a horizontal dimension.
Is that why some cities put the maximum of 600 square feet?
It could be, and certainly we can add provisions like that. But
your recommendation is the 15%.
Just, yeah, remove the 6-foot limitation, leave it at 15%. All other standards still apply.
The Planning Commission's looked at that.
They didn't like the 600 square foot max that some of the other cities had, or
They
did they
didn't
discuss it?
It wasn't discussed.
I guess that would be a fairly large sign on a Super Target or a Home Depot. If you didn't put any kind of restriction on it at all. I guess, I mean, they're looking for something that's appealing to the public too. They don't want to be known as a place with a great big huge sign on it, but they certainly want people to know who they are.
Mm-hmm. I see discussion. Are there questions?
Sorry, we're looking at Google
Well,
Maps.
we shouldn't do that up
some
here, but
locations
yeah,
in
yeah.
Taylorsville, and they're pretty hideous.
So any further questions? I will let make the council aware that this is also on the agenda for action, so take that into account. I hear some questions about, even though we may have some support of the 15%, but there may want to be some limits of what that can be total, as Scott was referring to on the back of that one.
I was curious. I saw it. I didn't know if it was. That's a pretty big sign. I think most smaller ones you're going to probably just run into a limitation on square footage. But on a big box, that could be.
I mean, on a 1,000 square foot wall, it's a 150 square foot sign. So that 600 foot only applies on very, very large signable
that's
areas.
still pretty darn big.
That's a big.
Okay, further discussion?
Can you just go back to the one slide with the, thank you.
Okay, further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll open up for public comment. Anyone from the audience would like to speak to item 4.2, which is the wall sign ordinance? Okay, hearing none, we will close public comment and move to item 5.0 and have Lieutenant Dan Bartlett in our police report. Thanks for staying around. This is a little bit longer than we anticipated.
I lost the clicker. Good evening. I have the January stats report. 1770 calls for service with 449 on-view cases, which is about standard for us. We jumped up to a 409 response time for the month of January. This is part of it's because we have new FTO. We had new FTOs, and we're training them, and we let them drive, and they go a little bit slower than our regular officers. So, it jumped up a little bit, but that's about 4 minutes is about where we like to live at. Our overall crime view for the month of January, we're at 91 of the major case, which is also about standard for us. Our arrests for the month of January, you could see the juveniles are still up for us. We have a new resource officer in the school, and she's learning how to get things done in the school over there, and we have kind of implemented a new with the law change in the school last year, we've done some education both with our resource officers and with the school, and have a better understanding with the administration over there as well as our resource officer what falls under the jurisdiction of the school district, what falls under the jurisdiction of the police department. And so we're just kind of fixing things over there and kind of figuring out how we get through the new law. And so a few of those cases we can attribute to the school, but that's about where we're at with that, with our juvenile arrest for the month. So,
when did that law go into force?
A year and a half ago. So it's just us kind of figuring it out with them, working together with the school of what is ours and what's the school's, and making sure that everyone's on the same page. So we implemented a new training program with them, and this last month, and so we're kind of going after the first of the year. We're kind of going off that new what we should be doing. So just working it out with them. Our traffic citations for the month, they changed our citation, the way our citations are done. The officers do citations. So there's a whole new way that our guys are learning how to do them. And there's been a little bit of learning curve for them. So, but as you can see, we're doing all right with our tickets. I like our warnings to be up a little bit higher. But when in talking with the guys when we did our training last week, they said that they're trying to figure out the citation thing still. So with the way we do those. So
Dan, help me understand what you mean by thing, citation thing.
well, so the citation on the computer when it comes up, the way that we do those citations
it's
now,
software.
It's completely changed,
Okay.
and so the guys are trying to learn the new way to do citations, and so it's just there's been a little bit of learning curve with that.
So at the drop less than half is because of
the citation table, yes, yeah. So the guys went out and they did a lot of hand cites, the old carbon copy ones, and then we had to go in and enter them. So when they're doing those hand cites, they don't write as many. So, and I told them I like to keep the warnings up a little bit higher and kind of level those out like we did last month. So we're working on it.
I had a complaint about what could have potentially been a click it or a fix it ticket where they actually towed her vehicle. How often are we throwing people out of their car and towing it away when it could be a fix it ticket?
Well, the law kind of dictates what we tow a vehicle for. So if that vehicle doesn't have insurance or registration, we're supposed to tow the vehicle. That's not a fix-it ticket issue. That's like a violation of the law. So we're supposed to tow it. Like a fix-it ticket, unless that vehicle was unsafe to operate on the road, meaning like it had no lights at all and it was the middle of the night, they could tow that vehicle because it's completely unsafe. That would be an officer discretion thing. So it would have to depend on what it was. I don't know like the circumstances behind it, but if it's an insurance or registration thing, the officers are supposed to tow it.
Thanks.
Okay. Our accidents for the month, as you can see, they're still going high. Our injury accident was down for the month, which is wonderful. People did slow down, but it was also very slick. So our deaths for the month, 3 attended, 1 unattended. There were no Narcan saves for the month of January. I have put together some data on Wasatch Boulevard for you since we spoke in last council. I know that there was some concern with the traffic for ski. What I did was I sent our day shift guys up to Wasatch, and I had them watch the traffic up there. And so essentially what they saw was, of course, the traffic jam, the backup from with people waiting to get up the canyon. What they saw is a lot of people turning right into neighborhoods to get out, to turn around and get back out and come out so they didn't have to wait, which is not illegal. They didn't see a lot of illegal U-turns, with people on the road doing that. And they said that the log jam in the canyon itself is a nightmare. And on 2 occasions, they brought the entire shift up and tried to move it through. And get people through there as quick as they could. That, of course, requires, because it's a major intersection, it required 3 or 4 cars to do that. But they said there was absolutely nothing they could do to push these people out and move them through. We took the speed trailer, put it out on Wasatch. The median speed for Wasatch in the 85th percentile is 54 miles an hour. It's not extremely high. And we recorded.
It's signed at 50?
Yes, sir. It's not extremely high for Wasatch. And the guys, when they went up and they were monitoring traffic, also ran speed to check and see the speeds were down. They weren't excessive up there. So when we did our special traffic enforcement, the first 3 or 4 days they were up there, they didn't see any violations to cite for. They did see some parking issues, and they cited for the parking issues when they were up there. And then as far as the U-turn issue, we spoke about it. So, yes, there's a problem, but we can't really fix that problem because we can't push those people up the canyon.
So the mayor and I were meeting with UDOT yesterday, and they told us unequivocally that if they were to do one of their speed tests today, they would increase the speed limit on Wasatch, which to me indicates that the speed is probably much higher than 54, but obviously we don't have the type of people power to sit up there and control that. So I understand that.
We did 4 days, I think, of data of our speed trailer, which catches that lane coming, towards them. So it's not the strip across or anything like that.
Yeah. So I would say that today, with the traffic that was backed up into Cottonwood Heights, of which I was part of, I saw at least 4 cars making a U-turn from northbound Wasatch to southbound Wasatch, taking a right onto Kings Hill Drive, and 11 of those cars ended up through the neighborhood on the icy streets, going a little bit faster than I would have expected. And so I did witness that today. I guess what I would say, and I think I talked to Tim about this, we probably relayed it to Robbie, but I expect this might happen again tomorrow. And I might just say, hanging out by the sign that says slow down by the Kings Hill Drive, you'll be able to see people probably won't be making that U-turn if somebody's hanging out there.
And we can do that. And they went up and they, all the way down on the, 62 and up. I mean, they checked it. We can't be everywhere all the time, but
sure.
We will certainly.
Yeah. I mean, I think where I saw a police officer by the church and by the 4-way stop by Smith's today. And maybe that person may have been better in the more traffic.
That was something different. They got a call up there this morning. That was something. That was unrelated. They would have been on Wasatch to do that.
Because I was like waving a couple times. I drove by a couple times, and then I was like, oh gosh, this is kind of a mess up here.
We got a call up there this morning, so we were up there for a call this morning.
Okay, it sounds like from what the CEO or general manager of Snowbird said today that we're going to be seeing this the next couple of days. I think, Mayor, we all...
Well, I think the thing is, whenever you see an announcement that they're doing avalanche control and the canyon closes and the word doesn't get out, then the gridlock and the issues are prevalent, yeah.
Absolutely, and I wish that we had a way to clear it out. We don't. And
I don't think anybody expects.
Well, it's a matter of public safety too, of inappropriately doing it, yeah.
And on bad weather mornings, we got calls all the way, down through the city, and so the guys are doing that. It's hard for me to take an entire shift and pull them up there, to do it. I mean, I'll take overtime money to do it if you want to give me overtime money to do it. But to pull the actual working shift away from the rest of the accidents in the city because it's a bad weather day, is hard. But we are doing active traffic enforcement on Wasatch.
Did you put the trailer in the same spot?
Yes, we put it in the same spot for 4 days. Yeah.
Because my understanding too, and I talked to a few officers just on an ad hoc basis, and they say actually, and if you further north you go, the faster the speed is. But then further south, it slows down, and that might be congestion. But I think there's different speeds in different locations based upon the road. Yeah. So. Yeah, the 4-lane section's faster. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Up high. We had it up high.
Yeah. So. But anyway, we appreciate you being sensitive to Wasatch Boulevard, and
we will continue to be sensitive to Wasatch Boulevard. I did include the crash data for the last 2 years at Fort and Wasatch, which are those cases that you can see right there. The yellow highlighted ones are injury accidents. So you're talking about a major intersection in the city, and there's 12 accidents or so, I think, on there for that over a 2-year period, which is nothing compared to what we get at Union Park and Fort Union, or Union Park and Park Center, or Highland. Yeah, nothing compared to that. I mean, the 12 accidents is actually
pretty low. Yeah,
for a major intersection with speed.
Go to Fort Union and 2300, or Highland and Fort Union, and
when we pulled these traffic numbers, the accidents for that intersection, I mean, they're extremely low, and especially for the higher speeds, we get much more down lower in the city.
Well, we appreciate what you do for all of the city. That every neighborhood wants to be safe and protected, and those are all important topics. Yeah.
Okay.
Before you move off that, I'm
curious
about raising the speed limit on Wasatch. Why would we do that? I mean,
well,
we see what the mean speed is.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. They create a formula, and they do a level of research, and based upon a certain percentile of a speed, then they set a speed limit. And they said if their data would actually support them raising the speed limit, not lowering it.
Because many of the citizens in that general area would like to see it decreased. And he said, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because if they go through and apply their criteria, it would actually raise it, to probably 60 or something like that.
That's interesting, because as you can see, our mean speed puts us right in line with where that speed limit is. So.
That
I'm surprised that they
85%
would have
sounds
different
very-
data.
very much
In fact,
in
I've never
line
seen them up there running data, so.
I think it was
Well,
the 85th
maybe we could use
percentile.
your data too.
Yeah.
All right, let's move ahead. Go. Yeah, thank you.
We did have you met them tonight, our post-graduation of our new recruits, so we were very excited to have them and have them out in training and get them on the road soon. You asked for the org chart. This is our patrol org chart. As you can see, what this shows is the assistant chief who's over patrol, the 6 sergeants who are the patrol sergeants, and their shifts. On the far right are new trainees. You can see there's 3 of them, and there's 2 vacancies down here at the bottom. I'm holding a vacancy in detectives and have been for a while, so we're waiting for them to get out so I can get that filled.
So they move in seniority from the side to the side?
No, just on the far right of the thing, those are just our trainees. That's why
Oh,
the
okay.
3 are off to the side. They would fall into the 2 vacancies in the bottom and then the 1 in investigations.
But to get to their individual shifts, they do bid by seniority. Only we won't let them stay in one rotation for multiple bids. We need them to move off there. Every 3rd bid, is that what we do?
Every 4th bid.
Yeah.
Bids are annually, biannually?
Yeah, so we do the 3 a year.
We try to.
Bids a year.
Yeah, I coincided that with, because I wanted to and be incentivized to go to school, so I do it with a semester changing.
Did you say you have a new SAY officer?
A new school resource officer. Polly Harris is in the school now. Matt Mann's back in patrol.
Oh, okay. You switched back. All right. That's a change, yeah.
So
Doing a good job over there at the school.
she has done a good job over at the school. So yeah, this is the patrol org chart.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you for putting that together.
You're welcome. I think I just killed it. Sorry. Our safety message for the month: vehicle break-ins, car break-ins, vehicle burglaries. We always seem to have a lot of them, and we just always want to take the opportunity to remind people, please, to lock your vehicles. Don't leave anything worth anything, any valuables in the vehicle, because the window will be broken or the door will be pried, and they will be taken. So they're very hard crime for us to solve and catch the people that are doing it. We have caught a few people in the last month. It's been great and wonderful, but if we're in progress crime that happens so fast, they're very hard to solve. So I just want to take the time to remind people, please help us help you.
How often do those, is it like once a week or 3 times a week, every day?
Oh,
grabbing.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. Every day. Yeah. Yeah. Every day. It's a huge.
And I understand talking to other jurisdictions, we're not alone. It's
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
On Sundays, they hit the wards, so they usually have people outside watching. During the spring, if you stop at a trailhead and people watch, they know once you leave that car, you're gone for a while, and they always leave their purses behind, so they come back to smash window and their purse is gone. So
extremely fast crime to commit and extremely hard to catch these people.
Yeah, up at the rec center, the public parking out there is very common, and yeah.
Any shopping area, any residential street in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nightmare for us. So we just want to remind everyone of that. Any other questions? Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Have a good evening.
Matt, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Somewhat brief report. Give you an update on some things that are going on as far as our engineering is concerned. We still have plans in the month of March to begin the intersection. So it's Fort Union and Highland, yes. I apologize. It's become a kind of like the name Share. I just say intersection now, and I think everybody should know who I'm talking about. So yes, Fort Union and Highland. We have a pre-con on that coming up, and if that date gets changed, or that month, it's a wide open date, but it is the month. If that gets changed, we'll let you know. We did bid out Big Cottonwood Canyon Trail today. Just FYI, we'll be bringing some information back to you at the next council, but just by way of information without laying too much out. The bid came in about $55,000 less than our expectation, so we should be moving forward on that project. We'll get the finances straightened out and in order, and we'll go from there. So we did get very good winter pricing on the bid, so it was a great time to bid. The shade structure and the restroom expansion are out again. We've talked about that, so I believe that opens next week. We'll see how that goes. And then finally, we are finalizing the environmental work on the roundabout and finishing up those requirements. And as soon as we are at that point, we'll be moving forward with the selection of an engineer to take care of that. Any questions on the engineering so far?
One question.
Yes.
You mentioned Big Cottonwood Canyon Trail.
Yes.
Is the $55,000 below, is that money still then available?
Yes, part of it. We're looking at making some exchange, working on the trail, seeing if we can expand it down the trail a little farther for some much needed repair or surfacing.
Okay, I was going to tell you, there's 6 or 8 spots on the trail.
Yeah.
The roots have caused pretty severe damage.
Well, we have to stay, yeah. No, you are correct.
I don't know how big the footprint is.
Yeah, we have to stay within a certain realm of this. But we are looking at that possibility of doing some extra work on the trail.
Okay.
So, and we'll go from there. As far as Public Works is concerned, just give you an update. The regular maintenance, I have given you the, I don't know where do I aim this thing? Where do I aim this thing? Oh. I just pushed the button. Now you've got it. Not that one. We're taking our act on the road here one day. Okay, anyway, so as far as Public Works activity is concerned, you can see on the sheet most of our work, a large percentage of our work was done this last month is in snow plowing, just so to bring that to your attention. As you're probably well aware, we had a pretty good month of January. Excuse me. And we have that, I'll have that information for you as well. So there's the Public Works activity broken down by total hours and percentage. And the majority of the work, once again, is in the streets and in the snow plowing. If you go over to the winter event report for the month of January, the snow report, to give you a heads up on what happened for last month, we had a total of about 33 inches of snowfall in the month of January over 9 events. That is localized. That is local. Our readings at the yard, we'll take those in different locations. But we had about 33 inches overall. Trucks traveled about 8,000 miles during the month of January over those 9 events. And I've tried to give you, as far as the salt's concerned, we try to calibrate the trucks at about, can you go to the other slide? We try to calibrate the trucks at a 250 pounds per mile for the salt. We came pretty close at about 230 pounds of salt per mile we spread for the month of January. The big event that everyone likes to discuss and talk about is on the board there, the January 21st. Just to give you a heads up, we threw out about 219 tons of salt that day, and we ended up with about 18 inches of snow that came down localized areas in about a 7-hour period. So that was a very big storm that came through and blew through, and I just, yeah, there they go again. And
that's just showing off.
I know. At this point, I'm just bragging, right?
I'm sorry, Matt. You do understand that was facetious.
Just heads up. I just want to give public accolades to my staff and the work that they went through this last month, especially during the Martin Luther King storm that blew through. They put in quite a few hours, upwards of 20 hours straight, trying to keep the roads open and keep things moving the way they should, and then quite a few days of cleanup afterwards. It was a big event. Make no mistake about it. It was a huge
18
event.
inches in 7 hours?
About 18 inches in 7 hours. But the 18 was up above. Down here we got about 12, 13 inches here at City Hall. So it was a very large event that came through. So make no mistake.
Standard process is if it's going more than an inch an hour, you need to
Going
focus
more than
on
an inch an hour, we are keeping mains, hills, and through streets.
We had a lot of
open.
hours that had a lot of accumulation on other roads because you're keeping.
That is true. If you just do the math, if you're getting over an inch an hour and you're trying to clean, one truck's trying to clean Fort Union, and you go down one side and you turn around and come back the other, you got about 1/4 of an inch of snow on the area you just cleaned. And then if you have to keep sweeping that, just take that into account. If the snow's falling over an inch an hour, it gets very heavy very quick.
Inches per hour predictions from the weather information you get. What I'm really asking is the one that's coming in tonight to tomorrow. Are we expecting to be that inch per hour?
Well, the weather is telling us we'll get about 3 to 5 inches over a day and a half. So far, I don't know what the number is at this point. I know I shoveled off about 1/2 an inch earlier today, so I don't know what the number will be. We always up here in Cottonwood, we tend to get a double what they'll predict for the valley floors.
So Matt, were you able to use some of the part-time funding during that major storm?
We brought in. Oh, I should also acknowledge this. We did bring our 3 of our police officers in as part of the part-time help who helped maintain, and they were out for quite a few hours keeping cul-de-sacs and roads open. So we had them out, and we did have one part-time in one of our larger trucks. He's a former employee who comes back and helps us when we have that need.
Thank you for that effort. I appreciate that, keeping those trucks rolling.
Just to make you feel better, we were meeting with Snowbird a minute ago, and you said you had 31 inches of snow so far?
33, yeah, last month.
Snowbird said how many did he have? 350?
Yeah, he makes money on it.
Yeah, he likes the snow.
He enjoys it. I have a whole different attitude about
money on our roads.
But 300, already year to date, 350 inches up there, yeah.
And they're expecting about 18 or so tonight, 18 to 24 inches tonight.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Any questions further, Matt? All right. Thank you. All right. We have just a couple action items that we want to proceed with. The first item is item 6.1, consideration of ordinance 315, amending the Cottonwood Heights Code section regarding the wall signs, is presented by Mike. There's a little bit of discussion on that. Any further questions? Or would we want to entertain a motion?
I'd move that we approve ordinance 315.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bracken, approval of ordinance 315. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's moved by Councilmember Bracken, second by Councilman Shelton. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Councilman Shelton.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
In light of the fact that I drive Redwood Road frequently, there's a trend in fast food to maximize signage, and they take full advantage of that. And we cited Taylorsville as an example. So if you drive about 5200 South, you'll see a Sweeto burrito and a Five Guys with just obnoxiously large signs. So I vote no.
Councilmember Michael.
It's 3-1, so I could be a yes or a no, right? Oh, no, you haven't voted yet. I'll say, I actually spent some time looking at this today, and it's a little hard for me to visualize it. I appreciate Mike and his staff's review of it, and so I'll vote yes.
Is that yes? And I will vote yes.
Took me a little bit to figure out the 15% was pretty close to 1/8. And if I thought about that earlier, I would have probably been a little less concerned.
Item 6.2 is a resolution approving entry into interlocal multi-jurisdictional mutual aid agreement for law enforcement. Any further discussion on that item?
I would just add that, of course, we want to help and be helped in an attitude of cooperation. I just want to note that we do tend to give more than we receive, and that there is some fiscal impact to that trend.
Yeah, and we want to be sensitive to that, absolutely. And through the budget process, we'll always want to look at that. And I think this agreement has a 30-day clause if we ever felt that it got out of line. So, any further discussion on this stuff?
Honestly, if it was up to me, I'd rather be on the.
It just comes with taxpayers' dollars, so we're spending others. We want to be fiscally responsible with those.
I think our police department is amazingly fiscally responsible. They may be physically responsible as well. I'd move that we approve Resolution 2019-10.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bracken. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bruce. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. The last item, and we'll have this individual introduce himself in just a minute. We discussed this in our work session. It's consideration of Resolution 2019-11, approving appointment to the Planning Commission. I think this member is a resident, a private business owner, has a lot of interest in our city, is well versed in some of the standards that we desire, and that's approving Dan Mills of the Planning Commission. Any questions on this appointment?
Mayor, may I just comment?
Please.
So Mike Johnson and I had the opportunity to sit down twice with Dan, and we've talked with him. He's very passionate about his community. He wants to serve. I think he's going to be a really good fit for the Planning Commission. We're excited to have him on board. I also will note that years and years ago, I knew Dan, although we'd forgot that until he came in for the interview. He went to Idaho State University. I always have to give a kudos to someone who did that, because that's what I did. It's my alma mater. So I'm excited to recommend him. I think he'll be a great fit for the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add that the public has really expressed a desire to have more diversity in our Planning Commission, to not just builders and commercial developers. So we're ecstatic that Dan is willing to selflessly give of his time and bring a diversified perspective to that commission.
Okay, with those comments, could I have a motion, please?
I move that we pass Resolution 2019-11.
It's been moved by Councilmember Bruce. To have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Michael. Any further discussion? Call for votes. Councilmember Shelton.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken.
Yes.
Councilmember Bruce.
Yes.
Councilmember Michael.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. With that, Dan, come on up and just let people hear from you just for a moment.
The vote's already happened, so you can't really,
Yeah.
submarine it now.
I'll try not to. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address this group. I'm grateful for the composition of this group of leaders, and my interest in serving more significantly in our community is largely based on the composition of the elected leaders as well as the staff. And having moved into this area when I was, in 1982, and then moving away and then moving back and seeing how things have evolved and improved, and seeing the opportunities and the challenges that come with growth and these wonderful mountains that we have in our backyard that I love to bike in and run in and ski in, and this community that needs to be able to be self-sustaining financially, but done in a way that is careful and thoughtful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a layperson that, again, is not involved in real estate. I'm a physical therapist by training, but somebody who's passionate about how space is used. I've had opportunities to see other communities. I've recently been involved with the American Physical Therapy Association and its development of a piece of property on the west side of the Potomac River in Alexandria, Virginia. And some of you may have seen the purchase of a piece of land by Amazon, and watching how that area that was blighted, really, and a rail yard that had been abandoned for nearly 20 years, and see how that a creative city and a creative group of people could see something that wasn't there before, and just kind of a vision for the future. I'm excited. I think that there are the pieces for amazing things to happen in Cottonwood Heights. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be involved a little more heavily. So thank you for the confidence of this group, and I look forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and welcome. He'll be a great addition to the team.
And we kept him almost as long as the hard stop for planning.
Yeah, and
I believe their rules say they have to be done at 9.
Yeah. Oh, we're on target. All right. With that, the only other item of business is the consent calendar. If we could have a motion to approve the minutes from the legislative breakfast on January 10th.
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Have a second.
Second.
Move in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn.
It's been moved we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned to the